I chose him, whispered the alien child. The council lost control. The Galactic Council was meeting again, but this time something felt different. Kellen Tor, a diplomat from Earth, sat quietly at the far end of the large, round table that stretched through the center of the room. It was a typical day for him, though he knew it was anything but. Tensions had been rising for months among the different factions of the galaxy. Everyone wanted something: power, control, resources. And the Council, a body formed to keep peace among the stars, was starting to lose its grip. Kellen had been in this room before, attending boring meetings where decisions were made with little excitement, where the discussions seemed more like a game of who could talk the longest. But today, the air felt thick with something else. It was as though the whole universe was holding its breath, waiting for something big to happen. He didn't know what it was, but he could sense it. The uneasy glances exchanged among the members of the council, the way everyone shifted nervously in their seats, all hinted at something different, something unusual. In the corner of the room stood an ancient Zorathian ambassador, cloaked in a flowing dark robe that shimmered like the night sky. Zorathians had been distant for centuries, only sending their representatives to the council on rare occasions. No one really knew much about their homeworld, only that they were powerful and mysterious. No one knew much about their society either, but there were rumors, whispers among the other ambassadors. Some believed that the Zorathians had a deep connection to an ancient power, one that could change the entire course of the galaxy. Kellen hadn't thought much about it before, but today he felt a strange pull toward the Zorathian ambassador. He couldn't explain it, but it was as though something or someone was calling to him. Suddenly, the door at the far side of the room slid open, and the atmosphere shifted. The room grew quieter, the tension thickening. Kellen looked up as the doors opened fully, and standing there, framed by the doorway, was a small figure. A child, no older than 6, was dressed in flowing robes of deep green, their skin a pale, almost glowing blue. This child, however, was not like any child Kellen had ever seen. The air seemed to hum around them, a quiet, almost invisible aura that made Kellen's skin prickle. The room went still. The council members exchanged hurried glances, their expressions unreadable. A few whispered amongst themselves, but the child remained unmoved, calm and serene, as though this moment was destined. Slowly, the child stepped forward into the room, their eyes scanning over the members of the council. When the child's gaze landed on Kellen, something strange happened. Kellen felt his heart beat faster, as if the child's gaze pierced through him, seeing something hidden deep within him that no one else could. The silence stretched for several long moments before the child spoke, their voice soft but filled with a strange power. I chose him. The words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. Kellen blinked, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. I chose him, the child repeated, this time looking directly at Kellen, their large eyes filled with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. The entire room fell into an eerie quiet, every person at the table staring at Kellen as if they had just witnessed something both miraculous and terrifying. Kellen didn't understand. What did this child mean by, I chose him? Why was this happening now, and why was it happening to him? The Zorathian ambassador stepped forward, their face grim. This is not possible, they muttered in a voice that Kellen barely heard. The prophecy, it cannot be. Kellen felt his pulse quicken, a prophecy. What was the ambassador talking about? His mind raced, but before he could ask, the child slowly began to walk toward him. Their tiny steps were sure, each one echoing in the stillness of the room. When the child finally reached Kellen, they stopped in front of him and raised their small hand. Kellen didn't know what to do, but somehow he felt as though he had no choice but to kneel before them. The child's hand hovered just above Kellen's chest, and he felt a sudden warmth, like a faint heat radiating from their palm. Kellen's breath caught in his throat as the warmth spread, and his chest seemed to tighten. The child whispered something, a language Kellen didn't understand, but it was almost as if the words were etched into his mind. Suddenly, Kellen felt something strange, a jolt of energy rushing through him. His body trembled and he almost lost his balance. His eyes widened in confusion, and for the briefest moment, everything around him seemed to blur. The room, the council, the child, it all disappeared, replaced by a swirling vortex of stars, strange alien worlds, and ancient glowing symbols. Before he could fully grasp what was happening, the vision faded and the warmth disappeared. Kellen gasped, his chest heaving. His hand instinctively reached up to his chest, as though trying to hold on to whatever had just passed through him. But it was gone, leaving him feeling hollow, empty. The child stepped back, their eyes never leaving his. The room remained silent, except for the sound of Kellen's own breath coming in ragged gasps. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, their faces now pale. The Zorathian ambassador's voice broke through the silence, a low, almost fearful whisper. "This is unexpected. The Heartstone has chosen." Kellen looked at the ambassador, his mind struggling to understand. "The Heartstone? What are you talking about?" "The Heartstone," the ambassador repeated, their voice trembling, "is an ancient artifact, one that can only be bound to someone pure enough to wield it. It is said that when the time comes, the Heartstone will choose a new bearer, someone who will change the course of history." Kellen's mind was racing, but before he could ask more questions, the child spoke again, their voice firm, but with an underlying sadness. "The council has lost control. They will try to stop you. But you, Kellen Tor, are the one chosen. The future of the galaxy lies in your hands now." Kellen's breath caught in his throat. He looked around the room, seeing the fear and uncertainty in the eyes of the council members. He felt something stir within him, a flicker of understanding, though it was still clouded by confusion. What had just happened? And what was he supposed to do now? The Zorathian ambassador was the first to break the silence. "We cannot let this happen. The council must act. We must take the Heartstone back." But the child's voice, calm and unwavering, stopped them. "It is too late. The choice has been made." With those words, the room fell into chaos. The once orderly meeting room now felt like a battlefield, with the members of the council scrambling to find a solution, to regain control. Kellen, still in a daze, tried to comprehend the magnitude of what had just occurred. The child turned to Kellen and spoke softly, almost as if only he could hear. "You have been chosen, Kellen Tor. The fate of the galaxy depends on you now." But what was Kellen supposed to do with this strange power? And who could he trust when the council itself was turning against him? As the room descended into disorder, Kellen knew one thing for certain: everything had just changed. And the galaxy would never be the same again. Kellen stood in the middle of the room, still stunned by what had just happened. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to make sense of the child's words. "The Heartstone has chosen." What did that even mean? He had never heard of the Heartstone before, yet it was now a part of him. Around him, the council was erupting in chaos. The once formal meeting room had become a place of confusion and fear. The leaders of the various factions were shouting over one another, their voices rising in panic. "What does this mean?" One of the council members, an alien with a face covered in thick scales, demanded. "The Heartstone was meant to remain hidden, untouched. How could a human?" Kellen's head was spinning. His eyes darted to the child who had brought him here, who had chosen him. The child stood near the entrance, their gaze unwavering as they observed the pandemonium. They seemed calm, almost as though this was exactly what they had expected. It was unsettling. Another council member, this one a tall, insected creature with compound eyes, stepped forward. "This is an abomination," they hissed. "No one, not even the Zorathians, was ever meant to wield the Heartstone. It should never have come to this." The child, undisturbed by the growing hostility, raised their small hand, and the room fell into an unnatural silence. It was as if the very air had thickened around them, pressing down on everyone present. Even the most powerful beings in the galaxy seemed to hold their breath. "You do not understand." The child's voice was soft, but it carried an undeniable authority. "The Heartstone was never meant to remain hidden. It was always meant to find its true bearer. Kellen Tor is the one chosen to guide the galaxy to its future." At the mention of Kellen's name, the room erupted again, this time louder than before. One of the council members, an older-looking alien with sharp, angular features, slammed his fist on the table. "Enough of this nonsense," he shouted. "You cannot possibly expect us to just accept this. The Heartstone's power is too great for any single individual, especially a human." Kellen's heart sank. He had never wanted any of this. He had simply been a diplomat, someone sent to try and maintain peace among the stars. And now, in a moment, he had become something more, something powerful, something dangerous. "I didn't ask for this," Kellen said, his voice breaking through the noise. He took a step forward, his eyes locked on the child. "Why me? Why am I the one chosen?" The child's expression softened, and for the first time, Kellen saw something like compassion in their eyes. They stepped closer to him, the others in the room falling silent as they did. "You were chosen," the child explained, "because you have the potential to see the galaxy differently. You are not bound by old alliances or ancient grudges. You are the key to breaking the cycle of conflict that has torn this galaxy apart." Kellen swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their words. "I don't know if I can do this. I don't even understand what's happening." The child's small hand reached up, placing their palm gently on Kellen's chest, right over the spot where the heartstone had embedded itself within him. A strange warmth spread from the stone, filling his entire body with an almost intoxicating sense of power. His muscles tightened, his thoughts became clearer, and for a moment Kellen thought he could feel the entire galaxy in his veins. "You are not alone," the child said softly. "The Heartstone chose you for a reason. You will learn to wield its power, and with it you will change everything. But be warned, the path will not be easy. The Council will try to stop you. Many will want the Heartstone for themselves. They will do anything to take it from you." Kellen nodded, trying to focus on the child's words, but it was hard. His mind was racing, his heart still beating wildly. The room around him felt distant, as though he were seeing it through a fog. "You must leave," the child continued, their voice firm now. "They will not allow you to stay here. You are a threat to them, and they will stop at nothing to ensure you do not leave with the Heartstone. Come with me. We will go to a place where you can learn what you must." Before Kellen could respond, the insected council member lunged forward, his sharp limbs reaching for Kellen. "Do not listen to it, human," he hissed. "You cannot imagine the destruction this power will bring." But Kellen wasn't listening anymore. The Heartstone pulsed within him, and he felt its energy surge again, sharper this time. His body reacted before he could stop it. With a wave of his hand, the air around him shimmered, and a force field of invisible energy surged outward. The insected council member was thrown back with a grunt, slamming into the wall. Gasps filled the room, and Kellen stared down at his hands in shock. He had done that. He didn't know how, but somehow he had done that. "You see?" The child's voice was calm as they spoke. "The Heartstone is now part of you. It gives you the power to protect yourself. But remember, Kellen Tor, it also comes with great responsibility." Before the council could respond, the child motioned for Kellen to follow them. With a hesitant glance at the council members, Kellen moved toward the door, but as he passed the insectoid council member, the alien's voice rose in anger. "You cannot escape," the creature shouted. "The Heartstone will be ours. We will take it from you, and you will never be able to stop us." Kellen didn't look back. He followed the child through the corridors of the station, the weight of the council's shouts still echoing in his mind. The halls of the station were eerily quiet now, the usual hum of activity replaced by a heavy silence. Every step he took seemed to press down on him more, the gravity of what he had just learned becoming more real with every moment. They reached a small docking bay, where a sleek silver ship was waiting. Its design was unlike any Kellen had ever seen, smooth curves, sharp angles, and an aura of ancient power that almost seemed to vibrate in the air around it. "This ship will take us to a safe place," the child said, opening the hatch. "Once we are there, you will begin to learn how to control the Heartstone. But be warned, Kellen, there will be those who will hunt you, those who will try to kill you for its power. We must leave now." Kellen didn't hesitate. He stepped into the ship, feeling the weight of his decision bearing down on him. What had he just agreed to? What was happening to him? The hatch closed behind them with a soft thud, and the ship's engines hummed to life. Kellen took a seat beside the child, his mind still spinning. The Heartstone, the council, the power flowing through him, it was all too much to grasp at once. "You are not alone," the child repeated, their voice a calm presence in the storm of his thoughts. "You have been chosen, and now together we will change the galaxy." The ship shot forward, and Kellen looked out the window, watching as the station grew smaller and smaller in the distance. His future was uncertain, and the road ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time, Kellen felt a strange sense of purpose. The galaxy would change, and somehow he would be the one to do it. The ship's engines hummed steadily as it sliced through the darkness of space. Kellen sat in his seat, staring out the viewport at the vast expanse of stars. The ship was moving faster than anything he had ever experienced, its speed almost impossible to comprehend. He could feel the pull of the engines, but the child beside him remained perfectly still, as though they were used to this kind of travel. The child had told him that they were heading to a hidden place, far from the council, where Kellen could begin to understand the power of the Heartstone. Kellen still had so many questions that the child hadn't answered yet. He wanted to know why he had been chosen, why it was him, a simple human diplomat who had been granted such power. He wanted to know what the Heartstone really was and why the council had reacted the way they did. But most of all, he wanted to know what he was supposed to do now. Kellen glanced at the child. They were sitting with their hands folded in their laps, staring ahead, their face calm and serene. It was hard to believe that this small being who looked so innocent was the one who had set all of this in motion. "You know what the council will do, don't you?" Kellen asked quietly, breaking the silence. His voice seemed too loud in the stillness of the ship, but he needed to say something. "They won't just let this go. They'll come after us. They'll send everything they have to take the Heartstone from me." The child nodded slowly, their eyes still focused on the stars outside. "I know," they replied softly. "They will come and they will try to take what is mine, what is ours." Kellen frowned. "But why me? Why the Heartstone? What's so special about a human like me?" The child's gaze shifted to Kellen, their large, glowing eyes filled with an emotion Kellen couldn't quite place. "Because you are not like the others," they said. "You are not bound by the old ways. The Heartstone has been waiting for someone who could see the galaxy as it truly is, without the weight of old grudges and alliances. You have the ability to bring change." Kellen shook his head, trying to wrap his mind around the idea. "I'm just a diplomat. I've spent my life trying to keep peace. I don't know anything about power or whatever the Heartstone is. I'm not the one who's supposed to do this." The child smiled, but there was a sadness in their eyes. "You will learn. The Heartstone will guide you. It is not just a tool of power. It is a key to unlocking the potential of the galaxy. But first, you must understand the history of the Heartstone, the ancient beings who created it, and the purpose it serves." Kellen leaned back in his seat, trying to process the child's words. He didn't know what to believe anymore. His life had been turned upside down in a matter of hours. A part of him wanted to go back to the way things were, to return to Earth and forget this entire nightmare. But the Heartstone had chosen him. There was no going back. "Where are we going?" Kellen asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "And why didn't the council tell me about the Heartstone? Why keep it a secret?" The child didn't answer right away. Instead, they stood up, their movements graceful and fluid, and walked to the front of the ship. They placed their hand on the controls, and the ship seemed to respond, shifting slightly as it adjusted course. The child turned back to Kellen, their face serious. "We are going to the Silent Moon," they said. "It is a place known only to the Zorathians, a world where the Heartstone was created. It is a place where you will learn the truth." Kellen raised an eyebrow. "The Silent Moon, what's so special about it?" "It is where the Heartstone's power was first unlocked," the child explained. "It is where the ancients created the stone and where it has remained hidden for thousands of years. The Silent Moon holds the key to understanding its true power." Kellen felt a shiver run down his spine. "And the council doesn't know about this place?" "No," the child replied, their voice firm. "Only a few know of its existence, and they have tried for centuries to keep it a secret. The council would never allow the truth to be known. They would never allow the Heartstone to be used as it was meant to be." Kellen frowned. "What do you mean by that? How was it meant to be used?" The child's eyes flickered with a distant, almost painful memory. "The Heartstone was meant to unite the galaxy, to bring peace to the stars. But the council twisted its purpose. They used its power to control, to manipulate. They used it to create wars, to maintain their grip on the galaxy. The Heartstone was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a bridge, a way for all species to come together, to see beyond their differences." Kellen felt a weight settle in his chest. "So the Heartstone is a way to fix things, to stop the war and the fighting?" "Yes," the child said, their voice soft but filled with determination. "But only if you understand its true purpose, and only if you are willing to use its power for the good of all. The Heartstone does not belong to any one species. It belongs to the galaxy. And it is up to you to decide how it is used." Kellen leaned forward, feeling a surge of responsibility flood through him. It was hard to believe that someone like him could be the one to change everything. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a warrior. He was just a man who had found himself caught in the middle of something far bigger than himself. But the child was right. The galaxy was in turmoil, and the council had used the Heartstone for their own selfish purposes. It was time for things to change. "We'll need allies," Kellen said, his voice steady now. If we're going to fight the council, we can't do it alone. The child nodded, their expression thoughtful. You will have allies, but be careful, Kellen. Not everyone will agree with your vision. Not everyone will want peace. The council has many supporters, and they will do everything they can to stop you. You must be ready. Kellen felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He knew the child was right. There would be those who would resist, who would fight to keep the status quo. But that didn't matter. He couldn't back down now. He had to learn to use the Heartstone. He had to be the one to change things. As the ship hurtled through space toward the silent moon, Kellen's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. He felt the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. The council, the Heartstone, the war, everything was connected, and it all rested on his ability to understand and control this strange, ancient power. He looked at the child, who was standing quietly by the controls, their face calm and serene. For all the fear and uncertainty Kellen felt, the child seemed at peace, as though they knew exactly what was going to happen next. Kellen couldn't help but admire their strength. They had known this moment was coming long before he had, and they had chosen him. It was hard to believe, but Kellen knew it was true. He had been chosen. Now he had to find a way to live up to that. The ship's engines hummed louder as they approached their destination. The stars outside grew dimmer, and Kellen could see the faint outline of a moon ahead, a pale, ghostly shape against the blackness of space. "We're almost there," the child said, their voice soft. Kellen nodded, bracing himself for whatever was coming next. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was clear: the galaxy was on the brink of change. And he, Kellen Tor, was the one who had to make it happen. The ship slowed as it approached the silent moon. Kellen could feel the shift in its movements. The engine's hum had softened, and the ship's systems adjusted to the gravitational pull of the moon. Through the viewport, the moon appeared in all its eerie glory, a pale, silvery sphere against the blackness of space. It was unlike any moon Kellen had ever seen. There were no visible signs of life or civilization, just a barren, rocky surface that seemed to shimmer faintly under the light of distant stars. As the ship descended, the child remained focused on the controls, their hands moving with practiced ease. Kellen sat silently beside them, his mind filled with questions. He had never been this far from Earth before, but this journey had taken him to places far beyond anything he could have imagined. The Heartstone, the Zorathians, the Council, it all felt like a dream, but the power coursing through his chest told him that it was all very real. The ship touched down softly on the surface of the moon, its landing gear clicking into place. Kellen could feel a subtle vibration beneath him, the only sign of the ship's presence on this otherwise silent world. He turned to the child, who had already unstrapped themselves from their seat. "We're here," the child said, standing up and moving toward the hatch. "This is where you will begin to understand what the Heartstone truly is." Kellen followed them, his legs stiff from the long journey. As the hatch opened, the cold air of the moon's surface rushed in, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the ship. He stepped out into the barren landscape, his boots crunching against the fine dust that covered the ground. The sky above was a deep black, dotted with stars that seemed distant and unreachable. There was no sign of life anywhere, just silence and the strange, haunting beauty of the moon. The child led the way, walking with purpose toward a distant mountain range. Kellen followed, his eyes scanning the horizon. It felt strange, being on a world so empty, so still. It was as though time itself had forgotten this place. After walking for what felt like hours, they reached the base of a large mountain. At its foot was a massive stone structure, half buried in the ground. It was ancient, its surface weathered by time and the harsh conditions of the moon. The child stopped in front of the structure, their gaze fixed on it. "This is where it all began," the child said softly, as if speaking to themselves. "This is where the Heartstone was created." Kellen stood beside them, staring at the structure. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The stone was smooth and perfectly shaped, as though it had been carved by a civilization far more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. There were strange symbols etched into the surface, glowing faintly in the dim light of the moon. "What is this place?" Kellen asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Who built it?" The child turned to him, their expression serious. "The Heartstone was created by an ancient race long before the Zorathians or the Council. They were a peaceful race, one that saw the potential for unity across the galaxy. They believed that the Heartstone could bring all species together to break down the barriers of war and division." Kellen frowned. But that's not what's happened, is it? The council twisted its purpose. Yes, the child replied. The council used the Heartstone to control, to maintain their power, but the Heartstone was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be a bridge, a way to unite the galaxy, not to divide it. Kellen felt a pang of guilt. He had always believed in peace, but the reality of what the galaxy had become was far from peaceful. The wars, the manipulation, the constant struggle for power, it had all been because of the Heartstone's misuse. "So what do we do now?" Kellen asked. "How do we fix this?" The child's eyes softened, and they stepped forward, placing their hand on the stone structure. The symbols etched into it began to glow brighter, their light casting strange shadows across the surface. Kellen took a step back, his heart racing as he watched the stone respond to the child's touch. "The Heartstone will show you," the child said quietly. "But you must be ready. You must be willing to see the truth, no matter how difficult it is." Kellen nodded, his stomach tightening. The weight of the moment was pressing down on him. He had known that he was part of something bigger than himself, but now, standing in front of this ancient structure, he realized just how much bigger it was. This wasn't just about the council. It was about the entire galaxy, the future of every species in the stars. Taking a deep breath, Kellen stepped forward, placing his hand on the stone beside the child. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a sudden jolt of energy surged through him, the Heartstone's power reacting to his touch. Kellen gasped, feeling the surge of energy flood through his body, coursing through his veins. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before, a rush of power, of connection, of understanding. Images flashed before his eyes, alien worlds, ancient battles, and the peaceful beings who had created the Heartstone. He saw them, the ancient race, working together to unlock the secrets of the stone, to create something that would bring peace to the galaxy. But as the images shifted, he saw the Heartstone being used for darker purposes, its power twisted by those who sought to control it. Kellen staggered back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The child reached out, steadying him. "You are seeing it," the child said softly. "You are seeing the truth." The images continued, showing the rise of the council and their manipulation of the Heartstone's power. He saw the wars they had started, the alliances they had broken, all in the name of control. He saw the suffering, the millions of lives lost, all because of the Heartstone's potential being used for the wrong reasons. Kellen clenched his fists, his anger rising. How could they do this? How could they use something so powerful for their own gain? The child's expression was unreadable. The council's leaders believe they are doing what is best for the galaxy, but they are blind. They cannot see what the Heartstone truly offers. They have become trapped by their own desire for power. Kellen took another deep breath, the images fading from his mind. He felt the weight of what he had seen, the truth of it settling deep within him. This was why he had been chosen. This was why the Heartstone had found him. He looked at the child, his voice steady. "I have to stop them. I have to make sure the Heartstone is used for its true purpose." The child nodded. "You will, but it will not be easy. The council will come for you. They will try to take the Heartstone by force if necessary. You must be ready to defend it." Kellen's mind raced. He had never been a soldier, he had never been trained for battle, but this was different. The galaxy needed him. It needed someone who could see beyond the wars and the politics, someone who could understand what the Heartstone truly meant. "I'm ready," Kellen said, his voice stronger now. "We'll take the fight to them." The child smiled, their expression softening. "You will not be alone, Kellen. The Heartstone will guide you, and I will be with you every step of the way." Kellen looked out over the barren landscape of the silent moon. It was quiet here, peaceful even, but the storm that was coming could not be ignored. The council had no idea what was about to hit them, and Kellen Tor, a simple human diplomat, was going to be the one to show them the true power of the Heartstone. The future of the galaxy rested in his hands. Kellen stood on the bridge of the ship, staring out at the vastness of space. The silent moon, now behind them, was just a distant speck in the darkness. They had left the ancient place where the Heartstone had been created, and the child had guided him through the visions of the past. It was clear now. The council was not just a political body, but a force that had corrupted the very essence of the galaxy's potential. They had taken the Heartstone, twisted its purpose, and used it to control everything. It was time for that to end. The child stood beside him, their eyes fixed on the stars outside. "You are ready now," they said, their voice calm, but carrying a weight of understanding. "The galaxy needs you. The Heartstone needs you." Kellen nodded, still feeling the power of the Heartstone inside him. He could feel it pulsing, responding to his thoughts, to his emotions. It was as if the Heartstone was alive, aware, and connected to everything around him. It was a power beyond his comprehension, but he knew one thing for certain. It was not something to be controlled by the Council or any one being. It was meant to unite, not divide. To heal, not harm. He turned toward the child. "I don't know what will happen next," Kellen said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "But I know that the galaxy can't continue like this. The wars, the lies, the suffering, it has to stop, and I'm the one who has to stop it." The child gave a small, knowing smile. "You have already begun. The first step is the hardest, but it is also the most important. Now you will need to face the Council. They will come for you, and they will not stop until they have what they want, but you will be ready." Kellen took a deep breath. He had never imagined he would be in a position like this. A simple diplomat from Earth, now holding the fate of the galaxy in his hands. He had always tried to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, but peace couldn't be made by ignoring the truth. The truth was that the Heartstone was meant to unite, not to be hoarded by a few for their own gain. It was a truth the Council had buried for too long, and now it was time for that truth to be revealed. The ship jumped into hyperspace, the stars streaking past them as they made their way toward the heart of the galaxy. The Council's headquarters were located on a massive station, floating in the core of the galaxy. It was a place of immense power, the seat of control for the most influential beings in the galaxy. Kellen had seen it before from a distance, but he had never imagined he would be standing at its gates, ready to challenge everything it represented. As they neared their destination, Kellen felt the weight of what he was about to do. He had no army, no fleet of ships to back him up. He was just one man with the Heartstone at his side. But the Heartstone was no ordinary weapon. It was the key to a future where the galaxy could live in peace. And that was the future Kellen was determined to create. The child stood beside him, their expression unreadable. "The Council will test you. They will try to break you, to make you question your resolve. But you must not falter. The Heartstone has chosen you for a reason. Trust in it and trust in yourself." Kellen nodded. He could feel the warmth of the Heartstone against his chest, a constant reminder of the power he now carried. It was a power that could reshape the galaxy, but it was also a power that could destroy if used wrongly. The responsibility was overwhelming, but Kellen knew that he had no choice. The Council had abused this power for too long. It was time to take it back, for the sake of every living being in the galaxy. As the ship neared the massive station, Kellen's mind raced. The Council would not welcome him. They would see him as a threat, as an enemy. They would stop at nothing to keep the Heartstone for themselves. But Kellen had something they didn't, the truth. And the truth was more powerful than any weapon. The ship docked at the station, its engines whirring to a halt. Kellen could feel the tension in the air as he stood up, ready to face what lay ahead. The child followed him as he made his way to the airlock, their presence a steadying influence. As the airlock door opened, they were greeted by a group of armed guards. They stood in silence, their weapons aimed at Kellen. It was clear they expected trouble. "Step aside," Kellen said, his voice steady and commanding. The guards didn't move. They just stared at him, their expressions cold. Kellen could feel the energy of the Heartstone growing stronger, pulsing with his heartbeat. The power was there, but he knew he couldn't use it unless it was absolutely necessary. Violence was not the answer, not if he could avoid it. One of the guards stepped forward, his voice gruff. "You are not welcome here. You are not authorized to be on this station." "I don't need your authorization," Kellen replied, his voice unwavering. "I've come to speak to the Council, and I will not leave until I have." The guards exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. The child stepped forward, their calm demeanor in stark contrast to the tension in the air. "Let him pass," the child said simply. The guards hesitated for a moment, but then they slowly stepped aside, allowing Kellen and the child to pass. Kellen's heart was pounding as they walked through the narrow corridors of the station. Every step felt like a test, but Kellen knew that he had to stay focused. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone. They reached the council chamber, a massive hall with towering walls covered in intricate alien designs. The council members were seated at a long, curved table, their eyes fixed on Kellen as he entered. The room was filled with tension, but the council remained silent, waiting for him to speak. Kellen stepped forward, his gaze locking with the council leaders. "I've come to end the war," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I've come to end the manipulation, the lies, the suffering. The Heartstone was never meant to be a weapon. It was meant to unite the galaxy, to bring peace, and I will make sure it is used for that purpose." The council members exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions hardening. One of them, a tall, regal alien with glowing eyes, spoke first. "You are a fool if you think you can change anything. The Heartstone belongs to us. We have used its power for centuries to keep the galaxy in balance. You are nothing more than a pawn, a tool in a game you do not understand." Kellen didn't flinch. "The balance you've created is one of war, of division. The galaxy is on the brink of destruction, and you are blind to it. You've used the Heartstone for control, not peace." Another council member, a humanoid with sharp features, leaned forward. "You are naive. The Heartstone was never meant to be shared. It was meant to keep order. Without it, chaos would reign." Kellen's eyes burned with determination. "And yet that's exactly what you've created. Chaos, pain, suffering. It's time for the galaxy to move beyond your control." The room grew quiet as the council members exchanged glances. Kellen could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but he knew one thing: he couldn't back down now. "The Heartstone is mine," Kellen said, his voice steady. "And I will use it to bring peace, to unite the galaxy. The old ways are over." With that, Kellen felt the Heartstone surge inside him, its energy rising to meet his will. The light from the stone illuminated the room, casting strange shadows across the faces of the council members. The power was overwhelming, but Kellen held steady. This was his moment. This was the future he had to create. And no one, not even the council, could stop him.